Now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to session 3 of our game of Gauntlet Comics Fellowship. We are here with our crew, and we have left everybody at the crux of a big battle. We've got our dwarf, we've got our orc, we've got our squire, and then we've got a bunch of cybernetically enhanced anthropomorphic animals and one giant robeast that has smashed its head through the doors of this temple. Now, we have been playing this with Gauntlet Hangouts. The Gauntlet is a community of people who love to get together and play games and do fun stuff like that. If you have any questions about the Gauntlet, feel free to visit gauntlet-rpg.com. Because this is a Gauntlet game, we are also using the Gauntlet tools of the table. That includes a Lines and Veils, which our Roll20 site has a document specifically detailed with those for this particular game, which our players and me as the Overlord have contributed to. Things we don't want to see, things we prefer to have happen off screen if they happen at all. And also, we'll be using the X card, which lets anybody at the table, including me, basically call an X on any element of the game that comes up that makes us uncomfortable, makes the game generally less fun in any way for anybody. If we need to do that, you'll see one of us put an X on our video screen, type an X into the chat, simply like speak up and say, well, I need to X that out. We won't ask any detailed questions about it. The only thing I may ask is to clarify exactly what we need to remove, and that will determine like how far we need to pull back to have the game go in a direction that keeps things fun and healthy for all of us. Let's see, that being said, I think we're all ready to kind of step back into where we were. I think we had one hanging question left, which was I think we had one spare level up left for the party to assign. And I think the fellowship has made its decision as to which one of them will level up. And who have y'all chosen?
We picked the squire to level up. Yes, right?
Yeah, I get that. Sorry, too many tabs here. Yeah, add that move in here.
And what move did you add with your level up?
I added which one? Actually, should I add the erase a bond to heal someone, or find the safest, quickest way out? They both seem useful.
Yeah, go with find the safest, quickest way out.
Okay.
That sounds good to me.
Cool.
A ready-made escape route is always good.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so when last we left us, we had a robeast with its head stuck in a temple door. We had about, I think, roughly about maybe 20 of those sort of zombie robot anthropomorphic animals that were waiting to try and scramble into the temple after the robeast was able to remove its head from the door. And you guys had just defeated roughly half of that force already. And none of the current ones seem to be paying attention to you guys at this point. So, what do we want to start with? Does anybody have an idea they want to kind of throw out there first, or you guys want to discuss things a little bit?
Just to get us rolling. I think Dapper Do Axe Breaker, the orc, is definitely taking a minute here on the battlefield to just tear off some of the bits of cybernetics from these creatures and just start like reshaping that in his hands into some new orc-made axes.
Glorious, and the orc can make a weapon out of anything.
Yep, that's my core move, the Fires of Industry.
Okay. As Dapper Do is basically lashing together these various sharp cybernetic parts. What is Regina doing, Kyle?
Probably laying a trap.
Okay.
If the behind the blocked entrance, so if anything bursts in, we'll be ready.
Okay. Now, what basically where you are you thinking basically where you guys have snuck up on these things? Are you laying it like behind them and you're going to try and draw them into it? Is that kind of where you're placing it?
Oh, I was thinking like behind us to watch our back. I
If
guess.
anything tries to come up behind you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that the break in the trees where those things that you guys basically ran off last time had smashed through. I think that's a bottleneck. You know, are you placing it there, or do you have another idea?
Yeah, the bottleneck sounds good.
Okay, all right. So just mark off one use of your trap. You are in a space of safety, and you got a few minutes where the enemy is not harrying you to set up that trap. Okay. What is our squire doing, Odell? Where's the squire, and what are they thinking about doing to try and deal with these last few, roughly about 20 cybernetic things and that poor roe beast that's stuck in the temple door?
Kind of inclined to just leave it stuck in the temple door. I mean, eventually it's got to break free, but there aren't many of us, and there are 20 of them. So need to, as they say, fight smarter, not harder. Let's see if I have anything useful for this. I'm not an especially good person to take on an army here, as it turns out.
Well, there's also a couple of the general moves that might put you in a better position, like you got to look closely to kind of examine the environment for possible advantages and things like that. Also, in sort of the general possibilities here, you got the possibility to try and keep them busy. Basically, you draw their attention off of the door and try and basically lead them around to kind of set them up for your teammates. And I think those are probably the most immediate ones that come to mind. If you have any custom moves that you think might also fit the situation, certainly bring those to bear.
I suppose I could be smart here and actually look at the situation before making crazy plans.
Okay, a look closely is based on sense, so
okay.
You can roll that just by clicking the dice next to your sense in the Roll20 site, and it's you can find that thing. Okay, there we go. I brought up my window so I can see the result. Okay, that's a 7. So I think that puts you in a situation where you get to ask 3 questions from the list, but because it's less than a 9, you find out one of those answers the hard way.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That extremely cool variant of the look at stuff PBTA move. Yeah. Okay.
So there's about a list of 5 options. Which of those options would you like to start with?
Is something hidden or out of place? If so, what looks suspicious?
Okay. Well, let's see here. I think from where you're standing, you're kind of examining like the entrance to the temple, and I think Odell's eyes sort of sweep around, and you're not sure why it catches your eye, but there seems to be like a hidden either entrance or exit to this temple that is kind of just above your standard like humanoid eye line on one of the sides of the temple of this big tree. It's sort of hidden by these by the trees like roots as they come out, but you can see that it looks like that has been used as an exit or an entrance at some point, because you notice a little bit of the vegetation looks like it's been trodden on recently, and there's no other reason for anything to approach that side. Like there's
Cool.
the creatures that are here, the beast and the cybernetic animal things, they are all centered around that entrance, because that was the easiest place for the big roe beast to get to try and smash its way in. But you're pretty sure there's some sort of entrance over there on the other side, kind of hidden between two of the large roots of this tree.
Okay.
You're not sure how to open it. You can't see that part, but you're pretty sure that's there.
Good. All right. Well, tell me about this beast that's trapped in the gate, and like I'm kind of specifically asking, like, how long is it going to be trapped there? Is it like gonna break free any second? But anything else about it is also probably good.
Okay. Okay. What you're able to discern, this looks roughly in structure like a woolly rhinoceros. Like it's a large beast with a heavy front-loaded head, and it looks like it has some sort of horn-like protrusions coming from the front of its head. The cybernetics along its flanks seem to be like dermal armor, like there's tufts of hair, and then there's these plates of rough metal that have been look like they've been bolted on, and I think like it's I think what you're seeing from the vantage point you're able to get, it looks like this thing's horn, like when it smashed through the doors, its horn went through first, and then it started to try and rear up like it was going to try and rip the doors off. But the doors inside, there was much less purchase in there, and its horn kind of got hooked around the upper part of the frame of this big door, and it's stuck. That horn is kind of stuck, and you can see how its neck's a little bit twisted, like it's trying to maneuver that horn out of whatever it's stuck in. But when it reared its head up to try and rip the doors off, like that horn got stuck. And that's what's keeping it clogged up in there. It's wriggling and squirming, and you can see like it slowly seems to be inching its neck and out of that awkward position to try and pull the horn out. You figure like you've maybe got just a few moments before it's able to get free of that part. And once it's free of that part, it wouldn't take it more than a few seconds to pull itself back out of that doorway, with those remains of those doors still attached to its head. So maybe a minute or two at most before it's able to get itself free, you think?
What will happen if I try to get it to back up? Turn around, like.
Okay, you just want it to back up, or do you want it to do something specific other than back up?
If it turns around and goes the other way, I figure that these 20 other creature soldiers will be busy trying to get it to go the right way. It may stomp on a few of them, and also it won't be working its way forward.
Ooh, okay. Okay, I think probably so how could you get it to basically basically what it sounds like what you really want to do is kind of have it basically wreak havoc amongst these things once it pulls itself free.
Yeah, that would be best case scenario. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it looked. So which specific question are we looking at?
What will happen if I?
If
I'm not even asking how to get it to back up. I'm just asking what will happen
if I do get it.
If I do that.
Okay. If you do convince it to back up, like you're thinking, this is with your rough knowledge of having maybe watched a couple of Discovery Channel specials before you ended up down here. Most rhinos tend to be short-tempered. They tend to not have particularly great vision, and they tend to respond to possible challenges by running at them. So if you want this thing to wreak havoc, you need to figure out some way to basically trigger that particular instinct, to have it basically start to be frustrated by these things around it. And it, let's see, of those three things, I think the one that you are going to have to learn the hard way, most likely, is that second one. I think you, in order to kind of see how it got stuck and why it's still stuck, I think you have to get in a little too close amongst these things. And I think a couple of the, even though they're kind of zombie-ish programmed, I think a couple of them, as you're trying to circle around and get a better view of this thing, a couple of those cybernetic animals notice you and pull away to head in your direction. And I think you're going to be, you're going to be in trouble in short order. It looks like two of them have pulled off and are sort of loping towards you, where you are kind of in the scrub around this temple entrance.
Okay.
All right.
That is completely reasonable.
All right. Let's see. Circle back around. Regina, what you've set your trap, and I think you can kind of see where Odell has circled around now to get a view of what's going on. And I think you notice a couple of those things sort of veering off from their main focus on the doorway, and they look like they're loping kind of toward Odell.
Well, I got my guns. I guess I'll try and shoot them.
Okay. Let's see. Right now, I think you fictionally, I think them directly pursuing Odell kind of gives you a space gives you the advantage against them. So I think you can roll this as a finish them if that's what you want to do. Or if you have an idea for another move, either one of your customs or one of the other basic moves whose objectives you like better.
Finish them sounds good.
Okay. Now it sounds like, based on your description, that you'd basically just be trying to kill them. But if you think you're trying to terrify or outsmart or force them to retreat or something like that, that can certainly be a version of that move as well. What do you think your objective is here?
Fictionally, I think I'm going for the kill.
Okay. Then you would roll plus blood. Ooh, that is a 4. Okay. So the advantage is lost, and I think because of the gunshot, I think the muzzle flash, like a flash of light, just sort of draws these things' attention. Maybe like a laser pointer to a cat. Like all of a sudden, like they just, two of them sort of swing their heads towards you, and I think they're charging at you now. So you are now the focus of two others.
I'd like to step in and help.
And I think I was just about to see where you were going to go. You've got two loping towards where Regina has just leveled her pistol. And are they pistols, Regina?
The rifles.
Rifles, okay. Where she's just leveled her rifle and taken a shot at some of those that were going after Odell, but it looks like in doing that, she's drawn the attention of two more off of their
Yeah.
main objective. So, which you can go after one group or the other. Which group are you going to try and step in against?
The group going after Regina, and I say, "Not enough gun, dwarf," as I pull out my junk cannon and just load some axes into it and start firing axes out of my junk cannon to try to strike down. Well, unclear if I have. I don't know if I have an advantage. So I'll say it's kind of keeping them busy with some suppressing fire of axes out of my junk cannon. How's that sound?
That sounds just fine. Yeah, unfortunately, the 6 or less kind of lost the advantage.
That's all right.
That's one of the consequences of rolling a 6 or less on a finish them. So until someone repositions for an advantage, I think y'all are acting without it right now.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I'll spend an orc-made axe as ammo for the junk cannon and roll with courage to keep them busy.
Okay.
Neither hope nor despair.
Oh no, not on this one.
Ooh, that was a 5.
Okay. We are hitting the ground face first this time.
Yeah, we thought we'd wrap this up quickly, but we have to roll some hits to do it.
Okay. Okay, on a keep them busy on a 6 or less, it's a standard. It's a standard fail result. So no additional special failures other than I think the two that you were shooting at. I think they are still focused on Regina. And I think we have drawn the attention of a couple of them that have now turned. The noise of the junk cannon has drawn the attention of two more, and they're now loping in against you.
Against me, gotcha.
Right. So now we're circling back around at this point to Odell. Odell, you have these two bearing down on you. Your companions are likewise occupied. What do you think? What do you think you've got that you can throw against these things?
Well, I do have a spear. Not a an amazing weapon, but that's what I have. So I think I'm just gonna fight them.
Okay. Do you want to frame this as you're trying to basically lead them off and kind of, I guess, rope-a-dope them a little bit? Or are you trying to basically just get away and using the spear kind of as an element of your distraction to get away from them?
How far am I from the rhino?
Oh, you could easily get there if you want to make that your attempt to move. I mean, I think you're where you had to get close enough to kind of see how its neck was twisted.
Mm-hmm.
You're close enough to where you could get to the rhino, as a part of your getaway, if that's where you want to get away to.
Am I within throwing distance?
Of the rhino?
Yeah.
Oh, sure, definitely.
Okay. I'm gonna so these two cybernetic creatures coming at me are like between me and the rhino, right?
Well, not necessarily.
No, okay.
Because they were behind the rhino, and they had to turn away from where they were waiting, kind of behind the rhino to run into the door once the rhino got out of the way. So the way they're loping, they're not necessarily in between you and the rhino. You've got a clear shot at it. It's freaking huge.
I'm trying. I'm like, basically, I want to throw the spear, annoy the rhino, get it to come toward me, and they're between. Okay. If they're between me and it, that's good.
Ooh, okay. Let's see. I think this actually sounds closer to a keep them busy sort of thing with the rhino.
Yeah.
because that sounds like the result you're going for is to draw the rhino off. So I think we'll need to see roll a keep them busy.
Sure. That's courage, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Hey, finally a non-failure.
Let's see how much of a non-failure is this? Sorry, I got to bring that one. Oh,
Partials.
okay. Okay, we're
You're
good.
the only one who can succeed at things, Odell.
That's terrifying.
Okay. You buy time, and their attention is all on you for now, but they will retaliate against you when time is up. So I think, fictionally, what happens is you get this thing's attention with that spear throw. Kind of tell us what it does. Its head is kind of pulling free now, and I think your spear connects it. I mean, doesn't necessarily do a whole lot of damage because
Right. I just want to annoy it.
and it is obviously annoyed now. It's kind of started off annoyed because it had been stuck in that stupid door.
Yeah.
And now it's really annoyed, and I think it's annoyed in your direction.
Okay.
You threw the spear, so it is sort of rearing and trying to prep itself to charge, but it has to kind of back around. So it's also stomping in front of a bunch of these things. So what is it when it comes after you? What does it look like for you to keep it busy?
Run like hell.
Okay. So
Like zigzagging through the scrub.
okay. So you start scrambling through all these little scrub trees and things, and I think as this thing's following you, like it's stomping, it stomped a bunch of those things when it charged. I think it probably took out 3 or 4 of them just through charging through them. So a few of them have been sort of dealt with that way, and you're just sort of leading this thing around now. Unfortunately, that thing is drawn off. Its attention is away from the door, so it can't do anything else regarding the door. But it has cleared that opening for the other things to try and get in.
I have big tough friends with good weapons. They can handle that.
So okay, you guys can see that Odell has drawn off that huge monster from the doorway and is basically running it around. And it's trampled a few of these things, a few of these smaller like cybernetic animals. But there's still the 4 that are roughly coming at both of you. Regina, how do you want to deal with this?
Probably try to, I guess, lure people in front of the big rampaging rhino thing. Try to like let it do the work for us.
Okay, that actually sounds like an overcome, because you're trying to redirect basically the harm the rhino will cause toward these things. Does that sound reasonable?
That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. So I think overcome is you roll that with blood, and let's see how well we do.
That's something.
All right, that is definitely something. That's a 7 to 9. On an overcome with a 7 to 9, you can choose one of the 2 options. You can pay a price to get the 10+ result, which is you do it with there's no other strings attached, or you create a temporary solution. It will delay the threat, but when time's up, the threat will be back in force.
I'll pay a price.
Okay. What price would you like to pay? You can sacrifice a piece of equipment, damage a stat, or you can give me another fictional alternative that makes a significant causes your character significant consternation.
I'll damage my iron stat.
Okay. So I think maybe what you do is something related to endurance. So describe to us how that looks when you're drawing this thing's attention.
Just a hell of a lot of running, just running right in front of it, like waving my hands about like, hey, look at me, and then just sort of running just fast enough that I keep managing to put the other cyborgs in its way.
Okay, I think that sounds reasonable. It's gonna trample another few of them. They're the only ones that are really left active and non-occupied with coming after you are there may be like the roughly 5 or 6 of them that are centered still close to the door that hadn't been drawn off. So I think you've managed to trample the 2 that were coming after you. I think they've been trampled as they tried to chase you, and then this thing tried to chase you. They get caught in the rhino crossfire there. What is Dapperdo doing? You've still got the two things coming towards you. Both of your companions have been using the fury of the rhino to try and take out a few more of these things, and it seems to be doing a relatively good job of stomping its erstwhile allies.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous of the rhino, to be honest. I feel like it's getting the most fun here. I got two enemies headed towards me, and also line of sight on a smaller gaggle that's trying to make their way through the through the gate. There's kind of a clear.
Yeah, periodically
for them
the rhino occasionally charges between you, like as it's chasing down either Odell or Regina, whichever one has managed to grab its attention in the last couple of seconds. But for the most part, you can take a shot at the group by the door, or you can take a shot at the group that is charging.
I think Dapperdo decides that the best line of action here is to try to do both. So he will kind of sling that junk cannon over his shoulder and just run forward and try to grab those 2 coming towards him, clonk their heads together, then stuff them into the junk cannon and fire them at their friends over by the gate.
Ooh, okay.
Tell me what I gotta roll. I'm willing to roll multiple things to try this.
Well, let's see. I think initially probably you're going to we're looking at probably more of an overcome situation. I think it's either going to be overcome or keep them busy. One of those 2. Because you're certainly occupying these things as you clonk their heads together and launch them at their fellows. You're not necessarily taking them out, like they're not going to be gone, but they will be they will be at least temporarily out of the way. So we're either looking at a keep them busy with the remainder of these cybernetic animal things being the object of this, or an overcome to basically put them at a disadvantage. So, fictionally, if you roll overcome, I'll say you're getting the advantage over these things because you're basically launched them into each other, and they're sort of off kilter because of that. With the keep them busy, like you wouldn't have the advantage over them, but your friends might.
I feel like it might be overcome because overcome says when you have to avoid, redirect, or prevent the harm something will cause, and I think I am redirecting them from attacking me to getting launched out of the junk cannon at their ostensible allies.
Okay, I think we'll use an overcome roll to kind of deal with all of that, and depending on the outcome, we'll see how it all plays out.
All right. And is there any like way for me to put myself into like get hope on this one, or that's kind of I have to be like working directly with someone to do that, I guess?
Well, I think if you can give me a fictional way that or any of your fellows can give me a fictional way that they're able to help you. Right now they seem to be leading this rhino around, so
they are pretty busy leading the rhino around.
They may be able to run the rhino in a way that kind of helps you in one way or another, but I'd have to leave that to y'all to figure out. If they can figure out a way to help you, you have bonds with both of them, I think. So you would be able to act with hope if y'all give me a good fictional way that could happen.
Does it count as me helping if my companions help?
It can indeed.
Because I've got a dwarf defender who can, be a strong type, can help you, shove around and manage these people.
That can definitely happen. So if you want to do that, I think you have bonds with Regina, and that would let you roll with hope.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, good shield work, Victoria. Now help shovel them into the cannon. uh, all right, let's try this. No more bad rolls. Got to have only good rolls from now on, as I roll with blood and hope to overcome. Hey, that's a 10.
All right. So when you overcome with a 10 plus, it just happens. You stop the obstacle, threat, cut, or move from causing any further harm. So you have basically launched these the two that were coming at you. You have basically, with Victoria's help, stuffed them into your cannon, launched them at their fellows, and they are all basically sort of lying in a pile. They are clambering. They're trying to clamber back up to their feet, but you have pretty much all of you have a fictional advantage over them at this point. So I think that's going to move the ticker back over to Odell. And Odell, what are you doing now?
Oh, yeah. uh, okay, so it's just kind of mayhem, right? I think, at some point I actually want to get away from the rhino chasing me. And I want to get into that little hidden entrance. Those are two different moves, I think.
Well, actually, because the way the fiction can work in this, I think you could cover both of those with a getaway.
Okay.
So when you roll to get away, this is where it gets tricky, because to get away you have to roll with grace.
Oh boy. Okay. Oh wait, I have a getaway move, don't I?
Yeah, I think you've got something super special that you can twist getaway to do
yes.
what you want to do.
I have run for it. When you get away by running right by or right past or right through the danger, roll plus courage instead of plus grace. Any allies who run after you can also roll plus courage instead of plus grace to get away. I don't know if anyone wants to take advantage of that, but you totally can. Because what I'm going to do, how tall is this thing?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of. It's bigger than a standard rhinoceros, so I think it's about maybe about 8.5 foot tall at the shoulder. Like it's hefty.
Cool. I am going to duck and I'm going to run between its legs to get away.
Okay, that's certainly courageous. That's definitely brave.
Suicidal, courageous. There's a fine line.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that is a 10. So for a 10 on getaway, you choose two options from the list on getaway. You can get there quickly, avoiding any harm, which will probably be good. You get there quickly, drawing no attention, which is probably good. And you can grab someone nearby and bring them along with you.
I guess first I'll ask, does anybody want to be that person that I drag along?
Let's see.
Not me personally.
Okay.
Dapper Do seems like he's having fun with these.
Yeah, he's enjoying the mayhem. Okay, cool. So I'll pick the other two then.
Okay. I think the way fictionally this works out is basically because you're like sliding through this, underneath this thing to get away. As you slide through, like it starts to spin to try and follow you, but it loses sight of you because its vision is terrible. So it just starts spinning and kicking and swinging its head around, trying to figure out where you went. It basically distracts these other things that were close to it as well. So fictionally, the advantage is still anybody's who wants to use it to take out that last discombobulated group of bad guys. I think Regina, if you and your party and Alexi and Dapper do work together, I think with 2 finish thems, you guys can take out all of these guys, because there's only about 6 of them left out of that original group. And
sounds good.
And Odell is over there at the entrance, You haven't really figured out how to get through there yet, but we'll take a look at that with your next action. Regina, would you like to use that advantage you've got to finish them, or do something else?
I think I'll use it to finish them.
Okay. What are you trying to basically kill them still, or are you looking to run them off? What's your objective here?
I think I'm just gonna try to like scare them off. Well, basically, run them over. Like if they're still chasing me, get them to follow me over to where I put the trap and just sort of lead them across it.
Okay.
Hopefully.
So you're looking to terrify or overwhelm them. Would that be fair?
Mhm.
That will be a finish them with grace. Basically, they will basically they will crawl away after the trap explodes on them, and that group will be gone. Does that kind of describe what you want to have happen, or do you just want to blow them up?
That sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. So you would roll finish them with grace.
I got a 10.
All right. So this is where all your good rolls come in. Okay. On a finish them with grace on a 10 plus, they admit defeat and will not be challenging you again. Basically, when that bomb goes off, like it doesn't obliterate them like that bomb you used against Aquila's pack. I think as they're scrambling around, three of them are three of them are chasing you now out of that group, and you basically run just past that bomb. They scramble in, and at the last second they sort of realize what's happening, because there's like that ominous sound that happens right before the bomb goes off, and they start to try and jump back, but they're not fast enough. So they're just thrown hither and yon by the force of the explosion, bounced off a couple of those nearby trees, and I think like they are crawling away. Like they've had enough. They can't. I think the cybernetics have put them in like a feedback loop now, so they're not able to do anything constructive. Like one of them is like crawling in a circle. Another one is just basically like looks like it's trying to climb the tree, but has no like apparatus that would allow it to do that. So it's just like jumping and sliding back up and down. They're like caught in some sort of loop due to the damage from the explosion, and they're beyond being able to interfere with you guys again at this point. But fictionally, they're still like hanging around. So if you guys want to do anything with them later, but they're not able to do anything against you. They're fictionally available if there's something you guys want to do with them after you're done. Okay. See, Lexi, you're back, and you guys have advantage over the last group of roughly 3 of these guys that haven't been taken out by various rhino charges or explosions.
Great. Then in that case, Dapper Do says, "Thanks for leaving a few for me," and we'll just charge in, axes swinging, and try to finish them.
Okay. It sounds like you're trying to. Are you trying to kill them, or are you trying to force them to retreat? Are you trying to like overawe and overwhelm them, knocking them out? Like what do you think you're doing?
We've got some already that we can examine afterwards. Like we've got some alive but disabled for future conversations if need be.
Yep. Yeah.
Then I'm going to kill these guys.
Okay. Roll plus blood.
Will do. Oh no, it's a 6.
Okay, I think as you come in with the axe, I think what happens is these things, you basically sort of barrel into them and you're knocking them aside. But here's the problem. As you scream your battle cry and you smash into these things and they go flying, they're not taken out, but they are sort of thrown out of your way. But the noise and the clatter and your battle cry draws the attention of the rhino.
Hmm.
And it swings around, and you're going to need to pay a price, either damage a stat or sacrifice something to take this rhino's smashing, rearing back and sort of smashing its horned nose into you as it spins around.
Yeah, I'll take the damage to grace as I'm gracelessly knocked off my feet by this rhino's proboscis.
Okay. All right, and back around to Odell. You are at this entrance. You're just not quite sure how to get in, but you know that entrance is here. Like you can definitely see like there's been way too much movement in this little tiny patch for there not to be something here.
Yeah, I'm looking real close. Like, is there a kind of unusually smooth part of the bark? Is there, any cracks that? I think I am looking closely, extremely literally.
Okay, let's roll look closely. That's plus sense. Okay, that's a 10.
Yeah.
All right. You will find out 3 questions, and you don't have to learn any of them the hard way.
I know. Wow. That's the first time. Okay. I guess the obvious one is something hidden or out of place.
Yes. You as you're sort of feeling around this area, it's mostly like relatively standard bark. It's rough in patches, smooth in patches. There's some moss here or there, but as you're running your fingers along one of the moss patches, like you feel like an indent in there. And
Excellent.
as you feel it, definitely feels like there's something in there you could apply pressure to.
Okay. What will happen if I do?
The door will open.
Okay. So tell me about what's inside. How could it hurt me and how could it help me?
Okay. This is a secret entrance. So what's inside is like this back entrance to the temple, and how it could hurt you. I'll start with that since that's the most immediate concern. You're probably, if anybody's back here, you're going to surprise the hell out of them, and they're not going to immediately know that you're your friend or foe. Like they're going to probably react in a hostile manner, or at least in a manner of being less than friendly if they suddenly discover you in there. How it will help you is obviously this is a way that you can make contact with the priests and try and set it up to where you guys can work together to hopefully deal with this rhino creature, and basically put a stop to this particular wave of attack.
Yeah, so I push the button.
Okay. The door swings open, and just you step through it.
First, I stow my spear. I try to look harmless, put my hands up.
Okay.
And
I think as a squire, I think your natural demeanor is harmlessness. So I think you step in. I think inside you see like this door opens into like a small like tunnel, or I'm not sure what you call it inside a tree, but basically it's a obviously like a concealed tunnel. It's pretty dark in there other than the light that's coming in from the door behind you, and you're guessing that maybe these plant people don't have to rely completely on light for vision, because there's no other light source inside here. You kind of feel your way up what feels like halfway like a ramp, and then part of it stairs at one point, and you come up and you feel like in front of you feel like another patch of that moss with another indent, and you are able to push that and open the secondary entrance that actually brings you into the main, like I guess for lack of a better word, a vestibule area of this temple. And you can see like there's a big open space in here, and this is a Ranumian temple, so there are no seats. They're more like places to peacefully root. So like there are patches on the ground where obviously there has been like the soil has been particularly prepared for Rhinumians to take root there, to meditate, or listen to their equivalent of sermons, probably with pheromones or something, who knows. And inside this place, you see like numerous priests sort of rushing around, like looking like they're trying to batten the front doors of the vestibule portion, and like they're stacking things that they've been able to grab in front of it, and some of them are trying to force extra roots of the tree itself to kind of grow up and block that doorway as best they can. But there's only so much they can do, because they tried to reinforce the front door like this, and they might have burned out the tree's available reserves. And so there's very little they seem to be able to do here. And as you're coming up, like one of the younger, I guess it looks younger because it's smaller, turns and starts to scramble back to, it looks like it's going to run grab something else. And then he sees you, and he lets out this shriek, like a surprise, like kind of thing.
Hey, my friend, look, no cybernetics.
Okay. I think probably this is a good point for us to try out that speak softly move, which we
yeah.
And because you are trying to quiet him down and like ease his tensions. And
Yep.
So when we roll to speak softly, you're rolling with wisdom, and you're trying to have a quiet chat with someone. I think, or you could put this as a talk sense, because you might be trying to with the speak softly, you're trying to get them to tell you something that they know or something about themselves, or that you can discern by their manners. With talk sense, you are attempting to convince them to do something that you need them to do in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think it's talk sense.
Okay. Are you basically going to talk about detailing what your plans are and what you need them to do? Do you think you're appealing to their emotions or desires? Are you trying to impress, dazzle, or trick them?
I think I'm just straightforward. Okay, this is the situation. This is what we have done. This is what's going on with the rhino. I came in here hoping that we could work together and drive it off.
Okay. I think that's rolling with plus sense.
Okay.
You're on fire right now. Okay. All right. On a 10 plus with talk sense. They do as you're asked to the best of their ability. Basically, if you hadn't rolled a 10, you would owe them a favor. But you rolled a 10 or plus, so what is fictionally, I think what we're confronting is the young acolyte like looks at you and obviously notices the lack of cybernetics, because that's very apparent, but also he recognizes you after he calms down a little and actually looks. And he mumbles something, and he sort of, it looks like he's concentrating, and then he starts to speak very slowly in really, really messed up English, like he's learned it like third or fourth hand. And he says, "You are from the Fellowship."
Yes, I'm their guide.
The Queen told us of you.
The others are outside right now.
You have come to help?
Yes, that's
what
we're here for.
And you see, like, as people are like, as you guys are talking now, you see like the other older priests like start to turn around and get a little upset. Then they see you calmly talking to them, and then they likewise, like, the recognition blossoms in their eyes, because the Fellowship is known by the other peoples that but I think when Queen Euphoria announced that the Fellowship was beginning its quest against the Overlord in Rhinum, I think she actually showed them like renditions of you that were drawn with plant people art, which was like beautiful flowers grown into the shapes of each of you.
And Chris, since these are Rhinumians, you say that recognition blossoms in their eyes. Is that literal?
Well, I think when they there's definitely a floral effect. I don't know if their eyes literally blossom. I don't remember that particular effect, but like it's whereas before, like it was like that sort of nervous, sort of quivering sort of vegetation, like you might get like a really small, like just a really tiny sapling on a windy day sort of quiver because they were nervous and upset and worried. I think as they're talking to you, like you kind of see like they're sort of flowering as a Rhinumian typically might, as you see like these sort of buds form, like where before they look like tiny little plants, like buds form along their neck and the backs of their heads and things like that. And they're obviously like really, really hearing what you're saying, and they want to help. They don't know how to help, so you have to tell them, but like they're ready to act. And I think as you're deciding what to tell them to do, I think we're just past 9 o'clock. I think it's a good time to kind of take a break, and we'll come back. We're going to deal with the rhinos, really the only big threat you have left, and a couple of those stragglers of the beasts of the cybernetic things. But that's all we've really got left to deal with, and you'll have the help of the priests. So you'll be rolling with hope when you deal with them when we come back. Okay. Would 5 minutes be enough for everybody, or you think you need 10?
5's fine.
5 works.
5
Works
works
for me.
Okay. Let's come back at 9:18, and we'll see you guys then. Okay, we're back. When we took our break, Odell had just gained the help of the Rhinumians who were holed up in this temple, and Regina and excuse me, Regina and Dapperdew were outside and looking to hopefully deal with those last few straggling enemies, and that enraged woolly rhinoceros with armor plating. So let's take a step back here outside for a moment. And Regina, what are you doing? You've seen your comrade Dapperdew take what looks like a solid hit from that rhinoceros, but looks like they rolled with it. So looks like they took a hit, but haven't been taken out yet. What would you like to do?
I don't think I've actually attacked anything with my mace yet, so I'm just gonna charge it and get a whacking.
Okay. Let's see. Fictionally, you don't have an advantage over it at this point, so finishing them isn't an option, but there are a couple of other things you can do, including keeping them busy and overcoming them if you have a specific thing that you want to try and do. What's your objective here? Do you want to draw its attention and set up Dapperdew for a possible counterattack, or what would you like to do?
I think I'll probably keep it busy then.
Okay. All right. When you're rolling keeping it busy, you roll with courage.
Oof. Not my strongest. And I got a 5.
Oof. Okay. All right. I think with this thing, getting its attention is unfortunately relatively easy. Not getting pummeled by it is the tricky part, and I think that's where things break down. Like it's swinging around in this very difficult to follow manner, and it's surprisingly fast when it's like just slinging its head around or just kicking or whatever it's doing. And I think you're going to have to pay a price. You can either damage a stat or sacrifice a piece of armor or equipment or something like that. Or if you have any other equipment that you think would make sense to spend a use of to avoid this thing basically stomping you.
I think Victoria, my defender, just kind of saves me here. And she's got 2 stats. Do I check off just one or both?
No, you check off just one in this instance. So you're basically they take a hit to one of those stats, whichever one you think makes the most fictional sense.
I'm going to check off Shield Bearer because I think she got kind of banged up and isn't.
Okay, maybe her shield got a big like horn-shaped hole in it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. All right. So I think she leaps in, like you swing the mace, and it bounces off one of those metal plates. As this thing's swinging around, it's hard to get a bead on the actual fleshy parts that look vulnerable. So your mace ricochets off, and she charges up and sort of like throws that shield in between you and that thing's horn when it swings back around. And that shield basically gets a big hole right through the middle of it. But it serves to distract this thing a little bit as it sort of tries to sling the shield off its horn. It's shaking its nose around. Okay, Dapper Do, you see this happen, and I think Victoria gets sort of flung away as this thing starts slinging that shield around. And so this thing now has a shield stuck on the end of its nose horn, and is particularly incensed by that.
I see. Am I correct that I can, when I call upon a companion for help, I can damage one of their stats to create an advantage related to that stat?
Yes. Just give me a fictional explanation of how that happens, and we'll see how it goes.
So my companion is Princess, my wolf, who we recall, it looks like kind of the skeleton of a wolf, just sort of animated by fungal growth filling her up, and she is my hunting buddy. I think we're like, we just got banged around by this thing, right? So Dapper Do's like pulling himself up, looking over at this creature. As sidling up next to him is Princess, and she's like, growling a strange fungal growl. And there's a look back and forth between the wolf and the orc, and Dapper Do's like, "All right, comrades in arms, do or die. Sick 'em, Princess." So I'm gonna check the loyal stat on the wolf to try to create an advantage as the wolf charges in and harries this bigger creature for me to hopefully try to roll to finish them. Does that sound fair?
I think that sounds fair.
Then what we probably see Dapper Do like take a running jump, like grab onto that shield that's been left kind of stuck on the tusk or horn of the creature, and then like kind of vault past the shield forward and just smack his own head into the creature's head, attempting to knock it unconscious with a mighty headbutt.
Okay. So since you're trying to knock it unconscious, I believe you will roll to finish it with sense.
Yes. Yeah, time to make a sense roll. Blood was just not cutting it, so got to try something else here. Yes.
Apparently that was what you needed. You needed to stop rolling blood and roll sense.
Dapper Do's like,
amazingly, that worked.
Just like the dwarves are always saying, you've got to use your head.
And I think that poor thing just has no idea what just happened. Like it sort of staggers, like drops back on its haunches and just sort of slumps over. Like you can tell it's still alive, but like it is utterly senseless. Like it's just like its tongue is lolling out, and its eyes are shut. Like
Yeah, and like when the dust clears, like Dapper Do is like standing up on top of it, like leaning on an axe and like petting Princess, who's like coming like jumped up to perch on the creature's unconscious head as well.
Okay, and I think the maybe the physical reflection of the damage status, maybe during that distraction, the thing sort of kicked at Princess, and maybe she took a little bit of a lick, so she's maybe one of her haunches is a little bit hurt. so she can't jump in with you like she normally would based on Holdall's set.
Yeah, like the
Reasonable?
bone is just sort of hanging free, like loosely connected by the tendrils of fungus that have spread themselves through this animated wolf.
Okay, so the rhino is down. There are still a few of those straggling cybernetic animal things. So you have taken out the biggest threat left, and you've only got like 2 or 3 of these cybernetic anthropomorphic animals that were sort of just straggling along, and they're sort of they are sort of looking at you. And I think at this point, Odell, you have convinced these priests to come out and offer their assistance. What does it look like when you've convinced them to charge out and surprise the remaining ones of this group?
I think it's less charging at it. So we're in a big tree. Is there a way to get up on like higher limbs and drop things on them?
Oh, definitely. They were kind of doing that a little bit before, but I think they had once that thing started breaking through the door, like they all scrambled down to try and head that off.
Yeah. So I think maybe that's the idea. And I'm gonna get up there and like make myself super visible so I can let Regina know where I am, because she's got like the long distance weapons. Although Dapper Dude does have a junk cannon. I forgot about that. So I'm like, hey, somebody come up here and shoot at them from this lovely vantage point I have with no ranged weapons to use.
Well, you still have your spear. I think you didn't sacrifice it.
Oh yeah. I must have picked it up or something. So okay, so I do have a ranged weapon, and I'll use it.
Yeah, you didn't have to actually pay a price for that roll. So
that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so you can throw that spear down at them if you want. Fictionally, you have advantage over them because they don't know you're up there. They're focused on the guy that headbutted their rhino.
I'll try to hit whichever one is, I don't know, whichever one looks the most likely to damage one of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Let's see. Are you trying to kill them? It sounds like you're throwing a spear at them. Okay, so roll plus blood. Okay, that's a 9. So on a 9, on a 7 to 9, you deal damage to them, and you lose the advantage. So you hit, and I think you damage. Each of these things basically has 2 stats. It's cybernetic animal and like pack mentality. And I think what you do when you hit this thing is you damage its pack mentality. Like from on high, you throw the spear, it connects with this thing's head and hits one of those metal circuitry board things. And that one just these 3 kind of lose their communication with each other, so they're no longer acting in concert.
Cool.
So they can't be basically a group threat anymore. They can just be three individual threats. And I think that kind of that sacrifices your advantage, but your companions are still available as well. And I think if this is okay with Odell, I think the Rhinumians kind of are coming out of that doorway now and are like using their like they have these little like sling staff things that they're throwing like berries or beans or something at them, and the beans kind of have this sort of like a pop rock kind of effect.
Oh, cool.
And I think with that, I think with you guys downstairs, you're rolling with hope to finish them. Like whatever you want to do to them, like you can finish them off here. Just give me a fictional explanation. I don't think you need to roll at this point because you've got those last 3 like in your sights. You just kind of got to tell me fictionally how you're pulling the trigger. See, Regina, how do you take out one of those 3?
Payment to fall back on my classic rifle. Yeah.
Okay, I think you draw a bead, and these things are acting out of concert now. So you take a shot, and he goes down. Dapper Do, how do you take one of them down?
Uh, I think I break off a bit of the tusk from this felled rhino beast, stick it into my junk cannon, and launch it at one of the remaining warriors.
Okay, now the rhino beast is still alive. You want to like rip off a piece of its horn?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. How big of a chunk are you taking off?
just enough to fill up the junk cannon.
Okay.
And that way
Just
it'll always
like the point.
yeah, it'll always remember that time I headbutted it into unconsciousness and won a glorious victory over it.
Okay. All right. You pop at the end of that horn off and pop it in your junk cannon, and boom. So you take out another one. Odell, how do you finish off that last one that you had taken off? It's lost its pack mentality and is wandering around aimlessly. What do you do to kind of deal with it, or do you let the Rhinumians kind of pop rocket into oblivion?
I'll just let them. Yeah. They can finish it off, or it can just wander around as long as it's not attacking. I don't care.
Okay. I think they're not interested in letting them continue to wander around, so I think they finish it off. Like they hit it, get it like 2 or 3 direct hits with those little pop rock beans they're throwing, and that puts it down.
Cool.
And you guys are standing there. I think this group of acolytes and priests. These are all the plant people. Fictionally, I think they would be, if they were a member of the Fellowship, they would be an elf. That's the sort of position they kind of have here. And the lead priest approaches your group and says in still kind of a rough English. Obviously, it's not something they're used to speaking, because the plant people kind of talk with pheromones a lot. So this is not something they're used to. And we'll leave aside why you guys are speaking English. We're still not sure exactly why that is, but like that's comic books for you.
We assume that's being translated from some, universal spoken language of the underground kingdom of Comdir, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have a little asterisk in a narrator's box up at top. Translated from Comdorinian or something like that. I don't think we've declared what the language is yet, but we'll go with Comdorinian right now. Or Comdiri. Yeah, that sounds a little bit better. We thank you, members of the Fellowship. Our queen spoke of you, but we did not hope to have you appear in our time of need to deliver us. Surely the great tree has led you to us now. What can we do for you who have delivered us from these monsters? Like all of you are kind of down there with this, like he's sort of making this request of you.
I mean, we came here just to stop the Overlord from like overwhelming them, right?
Yes, and hopefully prevent the Overlord from getting a hold of that big glowing sap ball that rests upon the side of this tree.
Yeah, Dapperdew points up towards the Sylvan Sapphire and says, "Well, I think we'd like to take a closer look at your big sappy thing, because where the Overlord wants it for some reason, we have to make sure that they don't get it."
And he nods enthusiastically with that point. Like, certainly, you may enter the temple and observe the great Sylvan Sapphire. The Overlord. I mean, we don't know exactly what the Overlord hopes to gain from it, but it has long been a source of light and belief, and a symbol of the health of our people in their forest. Come, and he motions you inside. And Odell, I think that young acolyte that you first met is still following you with that sort of blossoming headdress he's now developed, and he's sort of following around and trying to tell you like all of the things in the temple as you're passing them, like he's trying to sort of give you like a sort of a half-baked tour of the temple, because the priest is still leading you like up to where the star sapphire is.
Mm-hmm.
But he's trying to say, and over here is where we would hold the morning light ceremony, and here is where we hold the closing of the flower ceremony at dusk, and he's just like just going over and over and over in this stuff. So you have an opportunity while you're doing this, I think, to if you want to kind of forge a bond with him. I think you're in a fictional position to definitely do that.
Yeah, I specifically I want to know more about the sapphire, so I kind of encourage anything he says in that direction, because I actually want to know what about it the Overlord could use, because that might tell us something about their plans.
Okay. It sounds like you're rolling kind of a speak softly with someone to.
Yeah, I think I'm doing this as like just kind of a conversation that I occasionally turn into, encourage in certain directions, more than just directly asking.
Okay. Since all of you are present for this, and you kind of, everybody can kind of hear this little plant fellow, just, talking up a storm here with Odell. Would either of you like to attempt to assist her in sort of talking up the information about the star sapphire to get it out of this little guy? Like that, basically, fictionally, this would allow her to roll with hope, this will allow them to roll with hope to get sort of the information they need.
I'm pretty interested about that sapphire, so yeah, I'll help.
Okay, and he loves this kind of attention. He is just bubbling with this. So Odell, you can roll with hope on this speak softly.
Excellent.
And speak softly for this purpose, you would roll with wisdom.
Cool. Hey.
Is that an 11?
That's an 11.
Oh, okay. So on a 10 plus, they will answer each question honestly, and you get to ask 3 of them off of the speak softly list.
Cool. Okay. Well, what can they tell us about the Sylvan Sapphire?
Oh, he is just bubbling with this. Oh, the sapphire was the first light in our forest. It blossomed before the rising of the undersun, and it lit our forest, and its light gave rise to our people. And I mean, one of the older priests could certainly tell you more, but he's like reciting like their version of basically a scripture
right
about it, like the tale of he tells you like all of these things, like these little sort of the equivalent of parables, like about the where the first Rhinumian that rose to lay eyes upon the sapphire, and how the tree, how the sapphire got to where it is now, which is like on the outside of this particular tree, and apparently, and as he's kind of going through these things, you kind of get the basics of this item. This item draws draws and stores like ambient life energy basically, and it slowly releases it. So as long as this thing is here and active, like this forest will continue to grow, like even in this weird space that really doesn't have any like real sunlight, Like you're not sure what this undersun is under here, but it's, you know, it looks like a sun, but it doesn't. You're pretty sure it can't be a sun. You're from the surface world, like you know that isn't the sun. But this thing seems to be able to like allow the plants and other living things here. And gosh, the way the Rhinumians talk, maybe it helps to cause the entire realm of Comdir to flower and bear fruit. Like there, you know, this little guy is talking this thing up big time. Some of this may not be the actual truth, but he sure believes it.
Yeah. Okay. That hints at some of what the what's going on here. What should I be wary of when dealing with them?
Ooh, okay. When you're dealing with these priests, they are very protective of the sapphire. Like that's part of what they consider to be their religious duty, as the staff and residents of the temple. So you want to be very careful if you happen to end up thinking it'd be a good idea to ask to move or alter or, you know, do anything to the star sapphire other than letting it remain in the temple. Like that will, you know, any suggestions on that in that vein would certainly kind of, you know, maybe set off a more suspicious tack that they would end up taking. Like, so this thing is super important to them, and like even if it might be a really good idea to convince them to move it somewhere else, that bringing that subject to bear on them would be something that they would be resistant to, and would probably, like, you know, I mean, they're not going to attack you or anything, but they would become much less friendly to your suggestions.
Okay. Let's see, one of the other things. What do they want, and how could we help them get it?
Well, I think as this little guy is explaining it, they want to obviously keep the Sylvan Sapphire safe, and they want to maintain their traditions with the sapphire and with their temple. And I think what you could do to help them get it is maybe come up with something to make it harder for the Overlord's forces to get back here or to approach the sapphire again. Like, you know, I'm not, you know, fictionally there might be lots of ways for you guys to do that, but they want to be able to protect the sapphire without having to move it.
Okay.
So that's like, so that if you guys can collectively figure out a way to do that, that's what they want. They want to continue to be able to man this temple, which has been a Rhinumian place of power for a long time, and they want the sapphire to be able to remain where it is on its tree.
Cool. Yeah, that's my 3 questions. And yes, I would like to get a bond with.
Okay. Well, you can decide however you want to word your bond with him. You know, feel free to do that. And as the squire, you can command lore on anybody you share a bond with. So if you ever need to, you know, give any explanation or talk about, you know, this very enthusiastic acolyte again, you will be able to do that.
Okay.
So let's give him a name. What do you think his name would be? He's a little plant person. He's not a mushroom person, but a plant person.
So I am not at all familiar with the previous Masks games, so I don't know anything about any of these people.
Okay. The names with the Rhinumians tend to be related to flowers. So like any sort of flower related name, or a plant related name or tree related name of any kind.
What about
Fiddlehead.
sapling? Oh no, Fiddlehead is better. Go with Fiddlehead.
What was that one?
Fiddlehead. It's the fern when it's like just coming out and it's all curled up.
Oh, that is adorable, and I love it. Okay, so make that note of your bond with Fiddlehead, and he will enthusiastically continue to regale you all as you're walking up these steps to the Sapphire. And when you guys arrive in the Sapphire room, this thing has a presence to it. Like, the little kid was sort of talking it up a lot, so you were thinking, oh well, he's just a kid. This is the greatest thing in his life. But this, I mean, we've been all over this. Comdeer, Odell, you're from the surface. Like, I mean, yeah, you got superheroes, you got planet busting weapons, you got all kinds of crazy stuff up there. But when you walk in to see this thing, what is it about its presence that gives you the impression as to why this was so valuable to the Overlord? Let's start with you, Odell. Kind of tell us what that thing is for Odell.
It, like, you can see that it gives off light, from far away, but up closer, it also gives out this, radiant heat. It feels like the sun.
Is it like a sort of a soft heat, like a warm blanket kind of thing, or is it like it's a slightly off-putting heat, like like you're a little bit too close to the campfire sort of heat?
That's when you get close to it, that's too close to the campfire is about the right amount of heat, I think. But it's it does remind me not so much of the sun on the surface, but the undersun. There's just something very similar about it, and it kind of makes me wonder if maybe the undersun is just a giant one of these.
That could definitely lead to the Overlord having an interest in it just for that. Let's see, Dapper Dude, what about this? What about this glob of sap is so impressive? Like, now that you've gotten a view of it, like, it's got this weird sort of ambient warmth to it, in addition to its light.
And I think as I approach it, all of the little fungoid sprouts on my torso kind of like sort of prick up, right? It's like they're kind of reacting to the glow of this object and drawing strength from it, and kind of the little like fungal frills just sort of like rustle subtly.
So would it be fair to say that you're like having like a fungal bloom sort of thing? Like
just a bit, like, yeah.
Are you maybe putting off a few spores? Like,
yeah, a spore or two, sure.
Okay. All right. So you're basically feeling that sort of wave of biological like juice that this thing has. Okay. Regina, what about this impresses you as a scientist?
Well, no, if this is too far out there, but I'm thinking maybe this is like a weak spot in the dimensional framework. Like, there's like reality is thin in this area, which is like where all this energy is leaking through from somewhere else.
Ooh, so this thing is basically like a little nodule for some other reality that's sort of poking through a little bit.
Yeah.
Interesting. God, all those are really super good reasons for the Overlord to want this thing. Okay. Now, the priest kind of gives you the presentation, and it's a more mature version of what Fiddlehead has given you, but it's basically the same info. Like, Fiddlehead knows his stuff. He's just a little too bubbly about it for you to really take it seriously until you hear it from an adult. And he says, we know the Overlord wants this, but to move it would be to destroy the temple. Like, the temple without this here, this ancient tree would fall. And we don't know if the sapphire will bond with another tree. We want to keep it here and keep it safe and maintain our traditions, but this attack, this assault, if you had not appeared and helped cast these things away, we would have lost it. How you have done so much, but I feel I must ask for my people and for the good of the forest and the sapphire itself. How can you help us protect it?
This dwarf lady here is good at learning stuff about stuff. You should let her touch it.
Yeah, I'd like to examine it.
Okay, I think they're inclined to just let you examine it. The tricky part, like as I said before, as Odell learned, like, you know, if they perceive you as damaging it, like that may sort of set off a reaction for them. But like in a regular, just a plain examination, like they're perfectly happy to let you approach. Touching it is a little hard because it does have that uncomfortable heat as you get close to it. Like, you don't know that it would burn you if you like touched it with your skin, but it certainly feels like it probably would at least like give you a minor burn as you approach it, and that heat sort of buzzes off of it a little. Do you think you would like to do this like a look closely sort of roll, or do you have a dwarf move that would do better for you?
I have a special dwarf move. Let me see that. When you take a few moments to handle or examine an interesting item, vehicle, or architecture, I get to ask you 2 of the following questions, and you have to answer truthfully.
Okay. What questions would you like to ask?
What was this made to do, and how do I use it or break it?
Okay. Firstly, this item was created when Comdir was originally formed. Whatever entity created this subterranean realm, this thing was here. And originally, whatever power source this thing is drawing on was used to jumpstart the life cycles here in this subterranean world. And that's why things are able to exist here like they are. And this thing was probably, you're guessing based on your examination and the evidence you have, and its similarity that's been pointed out to the Undersun. This is probably the thing that was used to initially like set up whatever spark or reaction caused that Undersun phenomenon to begin.
So, hypothetically, could you, this isn't one of my questions, so you don't have to answer, but could you use this to like snuff out the Undersun?
I think I'll take that as your question of breaking, if that's okay.
Yeah.
How would you break this thing? And I think like if you damage this, like if you were able to damage or destroy or otherwise or corrupt in some way this thing, it would give you some level of control over the Undersun, possibly the ability to weaken or destroy it entirely. Like without some, you can't really make a scientific determination without like actually trying some of this stuff. But the way this thing seems to work and the way you've encountered other phenomenon like this, like transdimensional linkages that you guys have taken advantage of for your portaling, or quantum tunneling or whatever, however your technology works, you're thinking like this thing is probably at least minimally, based on what you can discern, at least minimally quantum entangled with that sun. Like the powers are linked. So it would be really bad if the Overlord got a hold of that, do you think?
Okay. And the second question, what's wrong with this and how might I fix it? And can I use that to ask, like, what's wrong with moving it? Like, can I move it without like killing it?
Okay. Here's the thing. you might be able to move this object without messing with the object itself. That's possible. You have to be really careful on it, and there'd be almost certainly some serious rolls involved to do that. But because you'd have to detach it from this tree, and the act of detaching it from its original tree would almost certainly just kill this tree, and probably kill the tree in short order, because the sense you're getting is this one globule of sap is basically the life force that's keeping this tree active at all. And this tree is stretched. You can tell as you were walking up, and you can feel the energy and hear, like, this tree seems like it's stretched pretty thin. And if you remove this source, like, this tree is gonna fall apart. Like, this temple ain't gonna last maybe a day or so after you remove this thing, if you did. And the Rhinumians seem to hold this thing pretty sacred, the tree itself, in addition to the sapphire, because whether or not it's true, they believe that this tree is what gave rise to this object. That may be true. This certainly is not a normal tree. You can judge by its size and the fact that it's growing underground to this size. Like, obviously, there would be something special about this tree anyway, but you're not sure if this tree gave rise to this thing, or if this thing bonded with the tree at some point in the past. But it's kind of stuck here now. You could remove it, be tricky, but you could. But the tree itself won't survive that process. The sapphire probably would if you were successful. Obviously, it's pretty sturdy to survive as long as it has, but the tree will definitely not survive that process. To help it, basically, is if you can keep this thing uncorrupted, like there's all sorts of things you could, that if you were able to, have good relations with the Rhinumians and were allowed to study this thing, there are probably all sorts of scientific discoveries about the nature of Comdir itself that the dwarves might be able to learn. Because this place is weird. Like, you guys realize that as soon as you got here. A lot of things exist here that shouldn't be able to under normal scientific rules. It's a comic book universe too, so weird stuff happens all the time. But a subterranean realm that basically runs like a surface realm with its own sun and moon and stuff like that, like, there's all sorts of things you might be able to learn from this if you're right about, and you are, because these are truthful answers, if you're right about what this thing is.
And we know that moon is up to no good.
You definitely can't. You don't know what's linked to the moon. This doesn't have any link to the moon as far as you know. So, yeah.
Do you, before we go on, I wanted to ask, do I have the authority among dwarves to just request like a research expedition come down here to like study this more in detail?
You are a paragon of your people, and I think your request would carry great weight with the university.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Because, like I said, they chose you to literally, like, we just need to send somebody to save the world. This is our guy. Like, you got some pull. Whether you can exercise that pull in the midst of all this other craziness that's going on, that might be a question, especially since we know that the Overlord has a delegation at the university right now. So that might cause you some consternation with your ability to exercise what would normally be an easy task. Like, if you say, hey, would you guys like to send an expedition to study the Sylvan Sapphire and Rhinum? They've given us clearance to do that. They would normally leap at that chance. Like, and be really happy that you were able to negotiate something like that. But we also have these other things that are going on in the background as you guys are working here. So, but yes, you got the pull to do that in normal circumstances. Whether these are still normal circumstances, we'll have to find out. Now, as a part of this, what you guys have done, I think you have achieved two things here. One, you have prevented the Overlord from seizing a source of power, and in doing so, have preserved it for I think the Fellowship's use. So by doing that, you have achieved something that could harm the Overlord. You also have I think, achieved by your actions, gaining the Fellowship of Rhino. So 2 things are going to happen here. One, you guys will get to choose a fellowship move for the Rhinumians to grant to you.
How does that work?
This is fun. Okay, all right. Let me get to that point, and I'll kind of go through the moves that I think work for the Rhinumians. But if you guys have any sort of fictional suggestions you'd like to make of something you think would work for them based on where you guys are in your fictional positioning with this priesthood and the sapphire and all of that, you're welcome to throw some alternatives out here. So we're looking in the fellowship book, and we are going to take up fellowship moves. For the Rhinumians, you have a couple of things that worked pretty well. Number one, I think you could gain the Ancestral Spirits move. The Rhinumians are some of the first people that grew some of the first living things in this world, and because they're constantly involved in like a plant-like life cycle, like they still maintain a lot more in their mind. It's spiritual contact with their ancestors. But with ancestral spirits, your deeds have awakened the spirits of their ancestors who had been laid to rest in this area near the temple and in the Rhinumian forest itself. And those spirits will haunt any minions of the Overlord who attempt to enter this place, driving them out and causing them great harm. If you take that move, this community can never fall to the Overlord. If the Overlord had plans to destroy this community, they would lose those plans now. So that's a good one. Another one is Bountiful Harvest. When you leave this community, each member of the Fellowship is given some elven bread, or the equivalent thereof, which gives food with 4 uses, which is a lot of food. And also, you could gain Elven Hospitality. When you leave this community, 2 Elven Archers, or the Rhinumian equivalent of archers, we can go into that if we need to. You get 2 Elven Archers to come with you as companions of the Fellowship. 2 members of the Fellowship each gain 1 bond with one of the archers. That's your choice. The archers' stats are perfect shot and an even more perfect shot. So basically, they're really good with ranged attack. Second, another one that you could gain. You don't have an elf, so you can't gain the elven training, which would have been super cool. But you could also be granted nobility in Rhinum, which involves you gaining an actual grant of property, and basically one of their tree residences here or in the Rhinumian capital. And you would decide which of the Fellowship owns the villa, and that particular character gains a title, the Rhinumian equivalent of a duke or countess or something like that, and they would gain additional political sway within Rhinum, and among those who respect the Rhinumians, which is a whole lot of people. So those are the ones I'm thinking would be the most perfect ones for Rhinum as we've encountered it so far. But if you want to look, I can give you guys access to a big long list of Fellowship moves, and you can think about which of those you would like.
I think hearing these, a lot of them sound like fun, but the Ancestral Spirit seems like maybe the coolest and most useful option.
It is that is one of the more awesome Fellowship moves. I'll be honest. When you read through them, it's like the Overlord can never, ever. I'll tell you, as the Overlord, that hurts. that you think that's a good idea. But strategically, I can see where you're coming from. Like, I'm hurt, but I understand. Let's see. So the other thing that you get an effect of is you have seized a source of power from out of the clutches of the Overlord. Like, they would have had this thing had you not intervened. So in Fellowship, when you seize a source of power, there is a particular effect. So let me go to that section here, and I'll kind of go through that part with you. Whenever you seize a source of power, you get to actually basically mess with the Overlord. You get to basically break one of the Overlord's stats. And what that does is it removes that stat from the Overlord. It doesn't just damage it. Basically, I lose that stat. And to regain a stat or to gain a new stat to replace it, I would have to use an advance use one of my Overlord level ups to do that. So currently, and I'll relate to you the Overlord's current stats. He has Terrible Gaze, which he has also gifted to his General Sarcoides. He has Juggernaut, and he has Impervious Amalgamation. Basically, the Terrible Gaze is that if you're in the presence of the Overlord, like basically if you fall under his Terrible Gaze, you roll with despair. Secondly, the Juggernaut is basically he is physically he's an unstoppable force. Like, he can smash, if he's present, like, he can smash through walls, he can knock down buildings, he can throw large boulders at you. Like, he's a physical force that is almost matchless. And thirdly, he is an impervious amalgamation, meaning that basically while within the fiction you can kind of knock pieces of his body away, like those pieces will all reaccumulate. Like, you can't actually damage him unless you actually remove that imperviousness through some method in the fiction. Like, he will just recombine as soon as the force that's broken him has spent itself. So those are his stats. Sorry.
Yeah. No, just to check, kind of when we select one of these, can we kind of take a take a kind of like bird's eye view fictional justification for it, like saying, okay, we've selected to damage the impervious amalgamation stat, and in the fiction, part of what that means is Regina brings in a dwarf research team and they manage to kind of distill something from the sapphire that will be able to break through the Overlord's defenses. Does that track with how you read how this goes?
Oh yeah. I mean, basically the mechanical effect is the Overlord loses the stat, and the narrative that you guys want to bring to bear that makes that happen, you get to do that as part of this mechanic. When you took that source of power away from the Overlord's grasp, like some way, shape, or form, that broke that stat. Whether it's the dwarves that do research, or whether you figure out some other way to channel that power to interfere with the Overlord's ability to recombinate after he's broken. Like, any fictional explanation you want to come up with to lay that out is awesome and will work. But the actual effect is that stat is broken if you choose to break that stat. Whichever stat you choose to break is broken. Let's see, we just passed 10 o'clock. If you guys are okay with it, we can take another 5-minute break. If you need more, let me know, and just kind of take that time to sort of think about which of those fellowship type moves you want to settle on. Or if you have another idea for a fellowship move that's kind of similar to those things, we can discuss that and pick which one of those stats you want to break. That be okay? Okay, let's break for 5 minutes. We'll come back at 10:17.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're back from our break, and the Fellowship is coming to a conclusion as to what they're going to do to my poor defenseless overlord with this, evil source of power they've claimed. So, who wants to kind of pick up the first? We'll do with the choice of Fellowship move and what that looks like, and then we'll go into what you guys have determined to do to my poor overlord. See who wants to jump in with the Fellowship move and state your choice for which one you've chosen.
I'll do it if that's all right. We're going with Ancestral Spirits to protect this area from any further incursions by the Overlord by summoning up this army of the dead. And I wonder if folks are okay with this, and if it seems like it makes sense. We established that kind of right outside of Rhinum was a place where the orcs kind of got their beginning as a community. I wonder if the spirits we summon up are those first orcs. So like kind of spectral fungal warriors, stationed to repel any further attacks on Rhinum.
I have one idea to add to that.
Yeah.
Fungus zombie orcs, like Princess.
That's also pretty good.
But that is pretty awesome, and like Princess, they're borderline indestructible. Because what are you going to do to them, really? Okay, I mean that's perfectly acceptable interpretation of the move. So I think Alexi, since that seems to partake of the orcish end of things, how do you think that as a part of this, you're able to convince the spores, and I can't remember what they call the fungus roots or mushroom roots. I know there's a specific name, but I can't remember. You call upon all of those ancient spores and funguses in the earth in the old orcish settlement. Like, what does that look like? Like, how do you draw those out and ask them to defend their old allies, the Rhinumians?
Yeah, I think we get the orc saying they call it mycorrhiza, a symbiotic association between a fungus and a plant. As once before, my orcish brethren, we must join with the Rhinumians in defense of freedom and of the ability of people like us to live outside of fear, not under the relentless gaze of the undermoon or the oppression of this new overlord, but united and together, shaking off those shackles. Are you with me? And then there's like a rumble from the ground as the orcish zombies, propelled by fungal matter, kind of rise up to form a defensive ring around Rhinum.
Now, let me ask you this: like, let's see, as they form this defensive ring, like, what are they? Does it look like basically the kingdom of Rhinum is effectively in like a ring of mushrooms now, like almost a fairy ring sort of thing? Is that how it looks when they're not active?
Yeah, like little like skull and crossbone symbols, but made out of white fungi, just like appear all around as like a warning to anyone who crosses. What will kind of emerge to set them on their heels.
That works for me. Let's see. Based on what we had discussed before, it sounded like the dwarves will be kind of taking the lead on the research to use the Sylvan Sapphire and its power to break the Overlord in some fashion. So, Regina, how does that research allow you to destroy the Overlord's invulnerability?
I think when we like study this example of like the weak spot in reality, we can figure out a way to like replicate it on a very, very small level to basically disrupt whatever it is that allows the Overlord to just combine themselves back together.
Okay, so I am now, based on that, going to remove, sadly, not damage, but entirely remove my impervious amalgamation stat. The Overlord now has 2 remaining stats, Terrible Gaze and Juggernaut.
Chris, just
Moment of silence
for our review. Yeah. Pour one out for impervious amalgamation. Just for our review, is the only way to remove these stats finding these sources of power, or is it possible to fight the Overlord directly and try to deal blows to them?
It's possible, but you have to, in order to fictionally do damage to them, you have to actually fictionally deal with these abilities too. The sources of power are the simplest ways, like mechanically, to deal with them. To go against the Overlord in battle is like super tricky. You don't have to destroy the Overlord stats like this to defeat them. You can damage their stats just like any other enemy, but it's super costly to do so. So the Overlord, when they're in battle, are difficult to take down. But perhaps unbeknownst to all of you, even Odell has access to the Overlord's weakness. And when the Overlord is exposed to its weakness, one of their stats is damaged immediately. The choice is with the choice on that is with the Overlord. The Overlord would pick which stat gets damaged by the weakness, and my stats and my moves cannot protect me from that weakness. So but it can only hurt me once per scene. So when you like turn that against me during that scene, I have to immediately damage one of my stats, which means I can't use that stat. That stat becomes temporarily false. I could heal that stat later with an Overlord advance or something similar, like seizing a source of power for myself. But for that portion, it's damaged. Now, to deal the Overlord damage, other than the weakness and other than seizing the source of power, when the Overlord would take damage, whoever is doing damage to me must first pay a price for each undamaged stat the Overlord currently has.
Oof.
Okay, so right now I have 2 stats. So if you would do harm to me, you have to pay a price for each undamaged stat that I have. So the Overlord is kind of like a super threat to the world. So right now you would pay 2 prices to do damage. And damage to the Overlord works just like damage for you guys. Like you can choose to damage a stat, or the Overlord also has equipment that they can choose to sacrifice. Like I have clever plans and that sort of thing in my gear that I can spend. Like I have a clever plan. I might have tricks up my sleeve. Any number of Overlord equipment I can use to, as based on my initial choices, to avoid that damage or sacrifice those. Effectively, have the Overlord has to take damage to either his equipment or his stats whenever you damage him.
Roger that. Thank you for explaining.
Yeah, and like I said, and the part of the let's see, I also can heal if you guys take time to heal and recover, like the actual move that lets you heal and recover everything. The Overlord gets to heal one of their damage stats too. I don't get to replace a stat. I just get to heal one that's damaged. So now that you guys have used the Sylvan Sapphire to take away my impervious amalgamation, in order for me to get that back, I would have to attempt to seize that Sylvan Sapphire.
Well,
And I can't do that.
You can't, because we have fungus orcs.
That's right. The Overlord can't do that because you took Ancestral Spirits as the move. So that stat is gone. I can add a new stat as part of my advances, but I will never be an impervious amalgamation again. My imperviousness is forever gone because the combination of those 2 things, those 2 choices, and their in-game effects. So yes, you can fight the Overlord. You as a fellowship, you may eventually be able to overcome them, especially now that I've lost one stat. It's much cheaper to take on the Overlord directly now, because the most price you'd have to pay is 2 prices to do damage. And after you damage me the first time, once I run out of equipment to use to avoid damage, then I'd have to start taking it to my stats. And once you damage both of my remaining stats, any damage to me after that, and I'm gone. The Overlord is defeated. With most creatures, once you damage both their stats, they're gone. Like my generals or anybody else, if you damage all their stats, they're taken out. The Overlord can take 1 more damage after all their stats are gone. But that's it. Like if you damage him again after both his stats are marked, remaining stats are marked, he's toast. And the game will be over. Okay. So we've got those 2 things that have happened as a consequence of what you guys have done here with the Sylvan Sapphire. You have the Fellowship of the Rhinumians, and they'll remain friendly to you. But the game effect you chose for your Fellowship move from them was the Ancestral Spirits. So fictionally, like they're still super friendly to the Fellowship, and they will offer you aid as per normal. They're friendly, but they're not like completely dedicated like they might have been if you had chosen one of the other moves that cause them to render direct aid. They will still offer aid. You just have to make your rolls for it to talk sense to them or something like that to get them to step in and do things. So it'll be a roll instead of just an automatic thing. But you now have fully friendly relations with Rhinum, and you've definitely got a place that you can crash if you need to, if the Overlord starts coming at you hard later. Okay. Now, I think at this point, you've kind of dealt with this Sylvan Sapphire arc. Odell, you've got a definitely close relationship with the priesthood now, certainly through our friend Fiddlehead. Let's get some fiction from Odell as to how does it look when you guys have to say goodbye. Because you're hanging out now, like that Dwarven research team, I think has shown up, because fictionally we use that move to get them to come out here immediately, even though there's all that craziness going on at the university. And so that's happened. And now you guys are having to embark on another segment of your quest. What does it look like?
I think this is the first time that someone has listened to him in a while, because he's normally like surrounded by people who know more than he does. And this is the first time he's like, okay, total strangers, I know more than they do. I'm going to tell them everything I know. So I think he's like, really into knowing things that like someone else doesn't know. And he like tries to get us to take him with us, like hey, I could go explore the world and then I could come back. And yeah, I mean the priest put a stop to that real quick.
Okay, what it says he sort of wheedles at you for a while. He wants to have a keepsake to remember you guys by. What do y'all leave him?
Good question. I see. There we go.
And if anybody has some ideas as to what might be a good thing, I mean, certainly you could throw things in there. But I think Odell is the one that he's really looking to.
Right. Yeah. Should this be something that's in my gear, because I don't have much?
I don't know. Fictionally, this can be anything. Like I said,
okay.
This you don't have to sacrifice gear for this. This is just him wanting a keepsake. I mean, it could be. I mean, he's a little plant kid. Like, it'd be simple as a button from your jacket that you brought from the surface world. It can be like a.
Oh, that's a good point. Get stuff from the surface world. That's got to be really interesting for him. So what do I have from the surface world that? I have a cheap, crappy digital wristwatch that like it doesn't even work down here. But to him, like this is a cool piece of jewelry, you know.
Okay. Does it still have like a readout on it that it just doesn't tell time?
It's just
like
stuck in
filament-
one, yeah, it's
it's
stuck
filament or
on
something?
8888, you know.
Oh, it was a calculator watch and you tried to divide by
No, it's
0
it's
or
it's
something.
just, you know, the digital, you know, but that's like when all of the little segments are
Okay.
black.
Okay, so it's completely broken, but it still looks like amazing and cool to him.
Right, yeah.
Okay, like he holds it reverently, and like I think you see him, he's like trying to put it around his neck first, like but even though he's got a little fern neck, like it's not going to go around that, and like he's trying to figure it out, and I think maybe you have to sort of nudge him to do it as a bracelet,
Yeah.
and he
I
just
think
oh
I think like Dapper Do like suddenly like looms into the scene, you know, and says to Fiddlehead, "It is a great honor to wear this band that Odell has brought all the way down from the distant overmoon. I hope you understand what a legacy you carry there, young Fiddlehead."
and
Just
like
kind of looking, I'm
you're
like,
not sure
you're on a
how,
little thick there.
you're not sure how he becomes even more blossomy and like crazy bubbly with this, but like he is in awe. Like if you're pretty sure like he's looking at this thing like, you know, maybe he might not ever wash his arm again. He's got this thing clasped. Like it's that level of admiration that he has for this thing.
Yeah, and I can't bring myself to tell him, no, it's not from the moon, it's from Walmart.
And I'll say to Odell, "Odell, you have proved yourself mighty in battle as well as wise in the ways of the distant overmoon. To replace this priceless bangle you have given to this young Rhinumian, I would be honored to offer you this scrimshaw bracelet I whittled from the tusk of the great siege rhino that I felled with a headbutt."
You did that in that fast?
I used a very tiny axe.
Feel free to
For
mark
the
that on your
detail
sheet.
work.
Yeah, feel free to mark that on your sheet.
I will, absolutely.
And I wonder if this can count as forging a bond as well.
I think so. If Odell is okay with that, like,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
definitely an exchange. And I'll just decide. You can decide now, or you can kind of think about it over the course of the week as to how you want the bond to be worded for each of you. And the other thing is that rhino is still alive out there. Like he's unconscious. Like he's still sleeping that off. But like, what do you guys want to do with them? You know, it seemed to react more like an animal than those other things did. Maybe there was still more of the animal left in it. So you do have the ability, should you choose to try and do that, to attempt to forge a bond with this thing. Like, unfortunately, Odell can't do that, to bring it on as a companion. But if one of you, Regina or Dapper Do, would like to try and do that, you can certainly make that a possible objective here.
I will help by reciting all of the Discovery Channel documentaries I saw on rhinos.
I would think you could do that with whichever one of them wants to do it. I think that would kind of let them, you know, put them in a position to do that. So, and I'll kind of read through the basic forge a bond move here. When you bond with excuse me, when you bond with someone over something you did or shared together, record a new bond with them on your sheet describing the connection. And if you forge a bond with someone outside the fellowship, they will join your cause as a companion as long as that bond holds. So if Regina or Dapper Do, if you guys want to throw me some fiction about how you convince this rhino that that you guys are cool and it should hang, feel free to do that.
All yours, Regina. I feel like I probably am on the rhino's bad side.
I absolutely want to befriend this rhino. I mean, they're a giant cyborg rhino. I am all about that.
Okay. So basically, you're in a position that just kind of give us some fiction as to how this happens. There's no role involved. As this thing's coming to, like after being headbutted into unconsciousness by Dapper Do, like describe to us kind of how you sort of coax this thing into joining the fellowship. You're not like talking to it, like it's not sentient, but it's effectively like an animal companion, just like Dapper Do's wolf. So it'll have stats that you can use and make use of. But give us some fiction as to how that works. How do you convince this poor corrupted rhino to turn to the fellowship?
Well, I think I go over to check the rhino out because I think they're the first example of the Overlord's cybernetics that at least the best example I've seen up close. So, I'm starting out checking for like any sort of control mechanism or something, and I guess it doesn't have one of those. So I just start like patching it up. Like I can't leave this animal like broken and in pain. So I just sort of fix up some cybernetics, try to, maybe tweak some things so it's more comfortable.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. I think what happens is like the control chip in this thing was basically designed to just basically allow it to follow the commands of nearby cybernetics. So it didn't have a long range receiver of its own. It was designed with a very short range receiver to sort of get communicated with by those other things. So the other things were what we're directing, and I think very easily you disable that. And after that, like just like most other animals, like it as you're patching it up, like it sort of when it awakes, like it's a little like jittery, like it starts to try to get up and pull away, and realizes it's not in a position to do that. It's still hurt. And it realizes very, in short order that you're helping. Like where as you're patching it up, it realizes that the places that you are touching it are places that don't hurt. And as you're going through and slowly repairing the damage, I mean, you can't do much about the horn. I mean, it's the horn is broken off about maybe about 4.5, 5 inches down from the tip is where it was broken off. Does that sound right, Dapper Do? Okay. So I think maybe part of what you do, and this is just a suggestion, and feel free to come up with a different one, is maybe you that horn point, maybe you replace that horn point with a metal that you sort of bolt on there, so that it now has like a steel tipped horn. And when it notices that and gets that feel of that new horn, like that's what cements your bond with it. Does that sound cool?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Well, let's talk about what sort of stats this giant thing will have. And this is going to follow you around. You will have one bond with it, and you can define what that bond is. Just a single sentence, maybe two at the most, that describe your bond with this creature.
I'll point out there's stats for a war elephant.
Yeah, and that's what I was about to dig
Nice.
out. Like we've got tons of. I think there's also one in here for like a rhinoceros too. Like.
Oh yeah. So whichever makes sense.
But the war elephant I think is probably closer because this thing is bigger than a regular rhino. So let me go in there. Okay, we've got beasts. I'm thinking this is going to be a hybrid of the war elephant and the wild boar.
Okay.
I think it's going to have the boar's wild charge move. So that'll be one of its stats is wild charge. And what I'll do is I'll in between now and next week I'll sort of create an entry on the Roll20 site for this thing, so you can add it to your character sheet. Actually, I can just cut and paste it in here right now. Hold on just a second. I'm going to give it the wild boar stats. That seems to be a little more appropriate based on how the rhino has reacted so far, I think. So that's the two basic stats and the sort of fictions that surround them. So instead of boar, put giant armored rhinoceros. Substitute that in, but it's easy to get it angry, and once you get it angry, like it's going to be mad at you, like, so it's going to focus on a target that made it mad and go after it. And then it has that charge move, which is pretty awesome. So feel free to copy paste, use that, and just add that to your companions list on your character sheet.
All right, I've added that. And I think I've written my bond down as I decided to name the rhino Steelhorn. And I keep Steelhorn patched up and optimized.
And that is the most metal name for a rhino I've ever heard, so I approve. I'm down with that. Okay. All right, you guys. We're getting towards the end here. So if it's okay, I'd like to kind of move into our end of session move, and then go forward. And you guys kind of tell me after we're done with the end of session what direction you guys fictionally want to go in for next time. Whether you want to travel to the Dwarvish University, or whether you want to basically go after something else. Try to seek out another source of power or something of that nature. And that'll kind of give me a direction to go in for next week. Okay. All right. So we're going to go for our end of session move. All right. For each yes answer to one of these questions, you get to make one. You get to make one choice out of our end of session options. First question: did the fellowship save or protect a community in need? That sounds like a yes to me. Huh? Okay.
Yeah, I think we did.
Okay, we got one yes answer. The second question is, did the fellowship strike a blow against the Overlord and their minions? I mean,
Yes, we did.
Yeah, yep. You got another yes there. Third, did the fellowship learn more about the world and its peoples? And I think you did there. There were lots of lore came out of this in various places.
Yeah.
From dwarves, from orcs, and from the squire, with the regards of fun things we got to find out about this priesthood. Okay, so you got 3 yes answers, and because you got 3 yeses, you get to choose 3 options from the following list, and you can choose any option more than once if you want to. First, each fellowship player refreshes a single piece of gear up to its full value. Second option, each fellowship player chooses 1 stat to heal, doesn't have to be theirs. And third, the fellowship and the Overlord each choose 1 player to level up. You cannot be chosen to level up if you are the highest level player, or if you have already been chosen to level up this session. So you have 3 options to pick from that list, and you can choose, the same option multiple times, or you can choose all 3 options at once. So,
do we want to level up anybody who's currently level 2?
I think that might be good.
Yeah, I'm currently level 2.
Okay. Let's see. So I think Bethany is Odell level 3 now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is the fellowship's choice for your level up?
I think it's going to be Dapperdew. Yes.
Sound right?
All right.
Okay. On the Overlord side, I think The Overlord is currently the highest level player, so I think I have to choose one of you guys.
Uh-huh.
So I think I'll choose Regina.
All right.
Next time I will choose the Overlord. Okay, so that's one of your options taken. What is your second choice?
Does everybody have damage?
I've got one stat, but of course I can just eat some jerky and deal
Same.
with that.
Me too. I've got some gear. I could like refill my explosive traps, or I'd also be up for if we wanted to just pick level up again, like twice if we wanted to.
I'm good with any of those.
If you choose level up again, I will level up the Overlord.
Does anyone else have gear they need to like repair?
Orcish moonshine, but that's not a huge deal. I mean, we is there something that lets us refill, like, outside of this advancement we can refill gear just by stopping in a place, is that right?
Right, but you have to take what the rest and recover move, and when you do that, I advance my plans.
Okay, so it is to advantage to
It's there's a cost associated with
refresh the gear.
Now the upside to the rest and recovery is you refresh everything.
Right.
You heal all your stats, like everything gets fixed.
Yeah.
I can get by without the gear replenishment for a bit if we want to hold off on that.
I mean, it's the penultimate session. We may as well do it just to be fully stocked before we go into the last session, right?
Well, no, this isn't we have
Next session's penultimate session.
We have
Same idea.
we have 2 more sessions because March is weird.
Oh, great. Okay, fair enough. Never mind. Well, I'm happy to do gear refresh or to do advancement, whatever's more exciting to folks.
Let's do levels, I guess, if that works.
Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. Who does the fellowship choose to level up? I think you probably have at this point, since I think are all of you level 3 now after that last level up?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think you guys are going to have to pick Hemfast, I think, to go up.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then the Overlord will go up a level. So there's good things and there's bad things. And I'll let you know what the Overlord ends up doing with their level up. The Overlord has to do like about 3 different things with their level up. And I'll let you know what each of those are, so you can kind of know the fiction that you're walking into.
Cool.
All right. And for your so you if I'm remembering right, you're going to do 2 level ups and 1 gear replenisher. Is that right?
Yeah. Do we want to do it that way?
Or do you want to choose a 3rd level up?
I mean, that works for me. Can we? Because you can't level up twice in one session, so.
Right. It would have to be Odell that leveled up, I think.
And then you would pick someone, and
I'd have to pick one of you that didn't know. Well, crap, no, that's right.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah, we fictionally it would fictionally we're kind of hamstrung with that.
Yeah.
Let's just refresh the gear and be all fully inventoried as we go into the next session.
Sounds good.
Okay, so 2 level ups and one gear. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I think that puts us at a good stopping point. Let's see if you guys are willing. We got about maybe 5 more minutes. If I'd like to get sort of a stars and wishes from each of you for what you liked out of this session and what you think you want to see next session, including like which direction you think the fellowship will be going next session as far as what you want to get done. Just so I'll have a little bit of prep work ready for you guys to run into, depending on which direction you want to go in. Okay, we'll start with Bethany. What stars and wishes do you have?
Stars for headbutting the rhino. I mean, that was a good move. And yeah, stars for you, Chris, for like keeping up this, like, you know, I know you've done some prep, but you can't have anticipated all the ridiculous things that we did. So but I can't tell which you did and which you didn't. Which is, yeah, you're either psychic or are doing a very good impression of having prepped everything.
I'll say it's mostly like, you know, I'm good at riffing on things once somebody gives me a direction, so I'm able to keep up with you guys for that reason. But there's a little bit of prep involved in this stuff, but I've learned just from the mass game I ran that like there's no way to prep for players. Like just you run with what they give you because you have a direction, have a default setting, and be ready to just break it all, because that's what's going to happen every time. Let's see. Did you have any wishes or more stars or wishes for next time?
I don't know. I mean, what direction to go from here? I think it's up to everybody else. This is the thing about the Squire, is that I just hang out and throw wrenches into the works.
Okay, and I think you know, the other thing the Squire does is basically keep everybody safe. Like I think that's one of your actual moves, isn't it?
It's one of my agenda things, I think.
Yeah, you get some bonuses if you like help your
there we go.
not do stupid stuff. I think
When I'm with someone I have a bond with, I can take the harm in their place.
I think there's also there's a Squire move, and I can't remember if it's one of the ones you start with, but you get a bonus if you can tell people you told them so or something like that.
I saw that one. I haven't taken it yet, but
so there's some cool directions to go in. Well, fictionally, do you have anything you want Odell to get to jump into during the next session? Any aspects of their character that you want to see explored a little bit more, or something you want to see Odell maybe get to do?
Nothing's really jumping out at me.
Okay. All right. If something comes to you between now and next session, feel free to shoot me an email, and because I'll be poking at things all week, trying to figure out you know, how to you know, how to not lose this momentum you guys have built up for me here, and to try and keep track of all the crazy stuff you guys have given me for the Overlord to try and do now. Okay. Let's see. Regina or Kyle at this point now, since we're post session, what kind of stars do you have about things you liked about this session that your fellow players had done, or parts of the game you liked? And what do you think you'd like to see next session for the Fellowship in general, story-wise, like where you want to go, and what things you'd like to see maybe for Regina to get into and get to do?
Starts all around, I think, was a pretty good session. Headbutting the rhino was pretty good. Coming up with some good names for the plant people real fast. And I like the way, Bethany, the way you bonded with the acolyte person. Wishes, nothing in particular, just I think just more the same.
Okay. Fictionally, where do you think you would like to see the Fellowship go as your next trip? I mean, do you want to hit the Dwarven University? Do you want to try and figure out if there's another source of power to seize? Is there some other community you'd want to visit? Like, what do you think you'd like to see in that respect as the direction you want to go in for next time?
Going to the university could be fun, but I kind of want to hit another source of power too. I'd like to do as much damage to the Overlord as possible.
Okay. Well, there could be a source of power at the Dwarven University. We haven't established that yet.
True.
There's got to be a reason the Overlord's there, and we know that he's interested in y'all in Dwarven science.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility. Alexi, what what stars do you have, and what wishes do you have for next time?
Yeah, stars all around. This was a great deal of fun. Big stars to Regina for reviving that woolly rhino cyborg at the end and making it part of our fellowship, and giving it an awesome name. That's super cool, and I'm sure the lingering bad blood between Dapper Do and this creature will not be a problem at all. Um, and start to Bethany for doing the Squire thing and bonding with NPCs quickly, and helping smooth our way there and get us into the Plant Citadel. Yeah, I loved getting to see everybody do their stuff and show off what's cool about their characters in the session. So a good time with that. So there's one like kind of like mechanical conceptual level wish where I feel like my wish is for maybe action scenes to be 1 degree less granular than we played them this time around. Like, is it possible to resolve more on a roll? And maybe some of the reason it felt very granular was we kept missing rolls, and so we weren't like making huge progress on stuff. But that was just a sort of a thought coming out of the action from here. And then the sort of a wish as far as like what direction, wherever we go towards other sources of power, towards the Dwarven University, I'm definitely interested in coming into conflict with that mushroom man general the Overlord's gotten now, Sarcoides, and putting to the test the rumor that Odell had heard that the orcs were still somehow under the sway of the mushroom men. We can find out how true that was. So I'm definitely excited to put that bit of the narrative in the spotlight, if that makes sense.
Sure. As I'll share with you guys, like stars all around, like you guys all brought it with the stuff you added to the world, with the cool ideas you gave me for the Overlord to want to poke at and find out about, and the link to the sun and the dimensional rift for the Sylvan Sapphire. I had not thought of that at all. Like that was not the direction I had thought for this thing at all, and I like what you guys came up with way better. So I'm glad. I was really happy with that. With all of the lore that we got to bring to bear here. On the combat issue, I recognize that like we got a bit granular. Some of that is for the roles, and I think some of it is like the group mechanics for this make things a little grainy sometimes. But I think I'm going to try and figure out an easy way to sort of resolve when you guys face large groups trying to make a little bit better use of their group mechanic. And I think we'll be able to head that part off. Hopefully you guys didn't burn off all your 10s and 11s with your socializing and look closely rolls this time. Because next time will be it sounds like will probably be a lot of social roles if things are going at the university the way that it seems like they probably will. So, okay, well, we'll reconvene next week. I appreciate everybody being here, and I look forward to the next session to find out more about the crazy world that we're all building here. And thanks for everybody for watching. Thanks for all of you for playing, and I'll be really happy to see you guys next week. And I will close the recording now.